in the private sector, because I did my articles in the private sector, I realized that like it's my people that look like me that were more intimidated by how strong I came on, you know?
Okay.
And again, I don't know if it's misconstrued, because I do understand where that might come from, because in corporate, there is a language, there's a posture, there's a way you need to be here. But I think I did it naturally based on my experiences, not my knowledge of how corporate was.
Yeah.
So I think people were intimidated, thinking she knows what she wants. She's gonna be here to get our jobs, and she wants to be seen, and she wants to be this. And I think I got the slack from people that look like me. This is why you failed. Busy making a baby.
Yeah.
You weren't concentrating. You weren't doing your sport. And I'm 21. I'm pregnant. I failed my CTA year. It's too much to handle, you know. You're the pregnant girl who failed, who's going back home.
Sure.
That's your new identity.
Oh, that's deep.
You know, failure is something that people should embrace and realize that it's inevitable. No one is not going to go through failure. Like, we are all going to go through failure. You're going to go through something, but see the learnings in it. See the opportunity in it. And don't stay down too long, you know, because sometimes you get comfortable in failure.
Hi there, and welcome back to the Leadership Podcast with Mutondi R. This is a platform where we celebrate phenomenal women who are doing great things out there. And on my side is a very phenomenal woman, Lesego Rankou, who is an audit manager and doing great things. I cannot wait to share what she is doing.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Mutondi.
I'm so happy.
I've been telling people, like, I love the setup. Before I even continue, the setup is giving me, like, I need to be professional. So I'm going to bring my A game.
Thank you. You addressed the part. You look the part.
Thank you.
So welcome to the Leadership Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So can you please just share with the viewers a bit about yourself, or a lot, actually, because I think they can learn a lot from your life journey. And obviously, the point of this podcast is to empower people who are coming after you, you know, to give them tips and techniques to get through and thrive in the different environments that they find themselves in. So can you please just share about your life journey from where you started up until now?
Perfect. So I am Lesego Rankou. I am originally from the Northwest Province. I grew up there my whole life, born and bred there. Was a grandmother's child, if I could put it like that. My parents had me when they were quite young, so they accepted a lot of family help, and that was my upbringing. It was full of love, full of warmth, being outside, ikasi, you know. And I think I had the privilege of going to a private school while living in a township, which gave me such a weird perspective in life quite early, because from the onset, I kind of saw the disparities of life, to say that at home, you live a certain type of way, but when you get to school, because of the affluence of being in a private school, you have to be someone else, you know. But I learned how to adapt to both environments. When I was at home, you would never say, "Hore, this one goes to a school in town." But when I was in town, you're like, she's definitely from here, right? And I think...
So on that, didn't that make you feel like an imposter?
I think when you're a child, you don't have language to describe. That's what you feel like.
Yeah.
But it's like being a character, you know, and it automatically came without me having to think too much about it. Because as a child, I think you adapt to the environments that you find yourself in. So I wasn't necessarily conscious of it. I just knew when I'm at home, don't be so formal. Don't be so, my clothes, like, go outside, play with the other kids. Don't judge other people. We all go to everyone's house, you know. But when we were at school, like, everybody spoke about, oh, this is what my parents did. You know, this is what I'm having for lunch. And it was weird because at first I felt a bit intimidated because obviously you can't keep up with the standard of the private school because that's not where you come from, right? So it's not that I had the best items. And even though my home was full of love and upbringing, from a social status point of view, I don't think I was able to keep up. And it wasn't my intention to keep up. So I did what I did at school because I loved school. I was involved in activities when I could go to do activities. I loved netball when I was growing up. I was always an academic. I was always lucky enough to also have friends that were quite smart. And I knew from the onset, those are the people that I need to be around. So whatever my smart friends did, I did, and I observed my environments. I never was that child that like tried to think outside the box. I always studied environments. I studied people. I saw their behaviors, and whoever stood out the most is who I gravitated towards. But yeah, that was like me in primary school, high school as well. I got the opportunity to go live with my parents because they were still up and coming as well. When they got married, they were staying in Joburg for a little bit, and I came to stay with them for 3 years. That was also a bit interesting for me because when you grow up with uncles and aunts and cousins and then now go into a household where there's two parents, it felt a bit weird. I didn't know how to adapt. I know these people are my parents, but it just was like it's just the three of us, and my little brother at that time was a baby. But I think I was uncomfortable with the idea of it because of movies. You think a household is supposed to be like, I don't know, we sit at the table. They come to sports events, and like my parents are like young, they're like going to work, and I'm like, why are you guys not coming to my networking? So I had to like quickly get out of this dream that I've built up in my mind and like get comfortable with like, these are my parents, this is what life is. And because they were so young, seeing them in the grind and not being able to be at home all the time, that gave me also an appreciation of seeing young professionals like reach for a dream, and then after staying with them, my dad got an opportunity to work at the Gautrain. And that was when it was still fresh. I think it was like 2010, 2009 when the Gautrain was being developed. He's in mining, but he got an opportunity to work on the Gautrain. And because at that time it was very all over the country, if I could put it like that, we were staying in the west of Johannesburg, but then he had to relocate to Sandton. And so that instability, my parents felt like it was going to be too much. Like one day he's here, one day he's not. So they took me back home. So I went back to Cloudstock, went back to the same school that I was in.
From Sandton to
Sandton to back home. And what's so funny is like, you don't realize how being away from home for 3 years also changes you. Because I didn't realize that I changed. When I came back, people were like, why do you sound different?
Yeah,
like what's going on with you? And I was like, no, you don't even realize it. Again, you're a child. I was only in grade 8 at that time. And my school, luckily enough, the one that I was at in primary school was a primary school and a high school. So I still went back to the same school. But now these friends were a bit different because now they're like, oh, she thinks she's better because she can't enjoy work. And I didn't have to say anything. I think it's just the idea that maybe she might be different and I remain the same, which was also good to experience. And I did my high school there. After high school, when you have to start choosing your career and like starting to choose which university you want to go to, what are you going to apply for? You know? I didn't know what I wanted to apply for because, again, I've always been that person that checks what are all my smart friends doing. You know? I remember my one friend was Indian and she loved dentistry and being a doctor. That's the upbringing that she comes from. Other friends wanted to go into entertainment and I didn't know what I wanted to become, and when we had to start applying for universities, I remember we had to do a physics assignment. I did physics. So one of the assignments we had to do elements and you had to study an element and my element was beryllium. I didn't know what beryllium was.
What is beryllium?
Apparently it's an element that you use to make medicine.
Oh.
That's what I can remember now. But I knew a lot.
We are learning at our big age.
But I learned a lot about beryllium. I was an expert.
Wow.
And I heard you could be a biochemical engineer. And I was like, that sounds fancy. I don't even know what it is. But I told my parents I'm going to apply for biochemical engineering because it sounds nice. And my parents obviously don't know what it is. So I'm pretty sure they're going to be proud of me anyway. And so I applied to Wits and I thought I would get in at Wits. I didn't apply at any other university. I think my mind was, do what your friends are doing. And all my friends were going to Wits. And I didn't even think of applying at any other university. It didn't cross my mind or anything. I was like, all my eggs in one basket, I'm going to Wits. I was academically doing well. I was also like playing netball, so I've always been this person. I got provisionally accepted and I thought things were great. But then after we wrote matric, I got B's and like maybe some C's, not like the A's that I was used to. Wits told me that there wasn't space for me anymore.
Wow.
That was my first shock of not necessarily being an adult, but now having to think like an adult because now I had to think of plan B.
I don't
make
have a plan fast.
And I didn't have a plan B. I didn't apply at any other university and I was stranded at that time. And I remember when January started, I even went to Wits, and I was like, those people in the lines and the queues was like, but guys, you gave me a provisional acceptance. What do you mean? Like, how did you give me so much false hope, you know? And to my shock, I still didn't get in. And they were like, sorry, ma'am, there isn't a lot. There's not much we can do for you. It is what it is. And I was so heartbroken for not necessarily taking time out to think about what I wanted to do with my life, you know? I think it was the first realization where I saw that I didn't think about life past my friends and past other people. Like, what did I want to do? But another friend kind of showed up for me because they told me about this university called Monash.
Okay.
And Monash at that time was under Australia. And I didn't know that university. I've never heard about it. They were like, it's in Ramsey. It's a very pricey university, but like you're going to have to make it work because they start in March, so you still can apply. So I applied at Monash. I'd never heard about it. It was a beautiful campus, full of Africa, if I could put it like that. In 2013, Monash at that time, going into 2014, being South African in that school was a bit weird. They even asked you, are you South African? You know, most people were from Nigeria, Congo, Botswana. There was just a lot of African people in that university at that time. So when I applied, they asked me, what do you want to do? And I was like, do you guys have biochemical engineering? Again, I'm going based on what I know. I'm like, do you guys have biochemical engineering? And they're like, no, ma'am, we don't even know what that is. We have public health.
Yeah.
I'm like, that doesn't sound It sounds like I'm going to be.
Especially with the public.
I'm like, public health, what does that mean? I'm a bit indecisive. They're like, but what do you like doing? I'm like, I think I'm good at maths. So they're like, okay, try economics. So I was like, okay, I'll do economics. I did economics, and in the commerce route, when you start off, you kind of do the same thing. So you'll do economics and you'll also do accounting. Even though I did accounting in high school, I really hated accounting. If there's one subject that I never wanted to see, I was like, I'm going to burn this book. I don't want to see accounting. But I was like, okay, fine, I'll still do it because I'm majoring in economics. It's just that one of my minors are accounting. But as I'm majoring in economics, I was like, this is not working. Every day, demand and supply.
The graphs.
Demand and supply. The graphs are not graphing. I'm like, sorry, please, I don't want to do this anymore. And accounting, funny enough, was starting to make sense to me. And I was really enjoying it without even feeling pressured, you know. And this was the first time where I felt like the need to study was coming from me. It wasn't my parents. It wasn't my friends. I was really enjoying the subject. And I quickly changed my major from economics to accounting. And that's how I landed up in the CA stream. But at that time, I still didn't know it's called the CA stream. Monash at that time called it Bachelor of Business Sciences and Accounting. And for me, I was like, it's just a degree. It's just another accounting degree. So I was still the scholar that was doing well again. I was still playing netball. I even started tutoring accounting when I was in my second year, in my third year as well. After graduating, I was so excited. I'm telling my parents I've got my degree. I'm going to go work. And my friends are like, no, Lesego, we are doing the CA stream.
Sure.
I'm like, what do you mean? What's a CA stream? They're like, there's another year. Like, it's called PGDA. I'm like, guys, we have to go work. We have a degree now. They're like, no, we're settling in. We have to apply for this other year. It's called PGDA year. And I think because, again, I wasn't well researched about what I was doing, I was so uncertain about even that year. I remember 2017 going in and doing my CTA year, and the marks started coming in, and I'm seeing those 40s and those 50s.
Yeah, the normal marks.
To other people. Like, to me, that was like the first time. Because remember, I'm tutoring accounting. So I'm like, my identity is academics. So when I got those 40s and 50s, and people were like, yeah, it's normal. I even remember I got 53% in auditing, and they're like, that's the highest mark.
Well done.
They're like, that is the highest mark. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I couldn't get used to those marks. And I think they shook me because that's when I finally understood that my identity is in academics. Like, that's who I thought I was, you know? And so for that to be taken away, already I was like, this is not going to work. This year is not going to work. I'm not going to get used to these marks. And you write the second set of tests, you still get 40s and 50s, and they're like, it is what it is, you know? And I'm like, no, guys, it's not it, you know? And I remember I called my dad one time in the bathroom. I was crying. I was like, I don't think I'm going to pass this year. And he's like, yeah, but Lesego, you always say that, and you always pass, you always get 90s, and like, this is what you say. And I'm like, it's different. This time, I mean it. It's not going to look shit. And my dad was like, you're going to be fine. And I remember at that time, I didn't know I was going into a depression, but I really was starting to have panic attacks. In class, even walking into class, my heart rate would go up. My palms would start sweating. When I was studying for tests, I remember the one time a friend of mine, we were studying together, and she had to give me oxygen because I literally just stopped breathing. Because I think I was just not used to the change in scope. I stopped playing netball because I felt like I'm a failure now. I can't be leading a netball team if I'm failing. I stopped tutoring because I'm like, how dare you tutor when you're getting 40s and 50s?
It's like everyone can see that you are getting 40s.
Failure all over my face. That's what I thought people saw, you know? And so I stopped the normal things that kept me sane. And that's when I felt like the depression was hitting me hard. And needless to say, at the end of that year, I didn't pass. And I remember the last exams that we wrote, I just put my pen down because the reality hit me that I'm not going to make it, and I don't have the strength to even finish strong, you know. And I didn't tell my parents about it. Obviously, I know that I failed, but I'm waiting for the results to come back. And I remember I was at my grandmother's house when I got my results. My results came back and I didn't pass. And this is the first time ever. It's like I've been top 10. I've always gotten 90s and 80s. And I have to go back and tell them I didn't pass. And my parents were a bit confused. My family was also a bit confused. Like, people didn't know how to deal with it because I've always been the scholar in the family, so nobody knows how to handle the situation. And I think 2 weeks later, I found out a test that I was not supposed to pass. I find out I'm pregnant.
Ooh, and you passed that one.
I passed the wrong test. And now my parents, in their mind, everything is making sense. This is why you failed. Busy making a baby. You weren't concentrating. You weren't doing your sport. And again, that like defeat, you know, and this sense of I am not worthy, you know, and not to get too serious, but I was so low in my life that like I needed an out. I remember at that time, my husband, who was my boyfriend at that time, I packed a bag and I was like, I'm leaving, you know. It was like suicide, but not really, but also wanting to leave, you know, like it's like an urging feeling that you're like, I need to get out of this state of mind. I need to get out of the situation. Everything is happening too fast. I'm 21. I'm pregnant. I failed my CTA year. It's too much to handle, you know, and I'm having an identity questioning because I'm not the smart one anymore. I'm not no longer the netball player. You're the pregnant girl who failed, who's going back home. That's your new identity.
That's deep.
You know, and so I couldn't make sense of what my life has become. And I remember 2018, I was pregnant all throughout that year. My friends who also didn't pass the year before, they went back to school. My other friends that passed started working. And now it's like this reality that like my body's changing. I'm cooking. You know?
And now it's visible.
It's visible. My shame, I'm wearing it. It's no longer something that I can run away from. At that time, social media was starting to pick up, and I was taking a step back. You know, I was like, let me not even tell my friends I was pregnant. I didn't tell my friends I was pregnant. They just saw me disappear from the face of the world. Like I just was that girl that was like, I'm going to sit in my shame and wallow in it, and we'll see what's going to happen. And what's going to happen? I have a degree, you know?
I mean,
I can get a job. You know, I can get a job, you know? And I was like, I'm trying to rationalize. This is me rationalizing to myself, saying life is not that bad, you know? But it's becoming that bad because I am not seeing a way out. And I think it took my daughter being born and me having to say, I'm a young parent. I want the best for my child. How do I change the story? How do I change this narrative? How do I unwrite the concept that I am a failure who got pregnant, who failed CTA? And I remember I asked my dad, I'm like, I know Monash was very expensive. I know I disappointed you guys. I know I should have done better, and I'm sorry for everything that I put you guys through. But please, can you give me one more chance? Just, it doesn't even have to be a Monash. It doesn't have to be a UJ, a UP. It can be UNISA. I'll do it with the baby. I don't know how, but I'll do it with the baby. And I think my dad, at that time, they've always been supporting and they've always been supportive, but it was also a bit difficult for them to know how life can change with a child.
Yeah.
Because they also had me when they were young. So I think it was a wrestling of them not wanting me to live the life that they live, and also this sadness of my child, her life has changed. And now she needs to learn how to do life with a child. And she's still a child. She's 22, you know. And so my dad was like, it's fine, I'll pay for you, go back to UNISA. And I remember I started that year, 2019. My daughter was 4 months old when I started CTA. Second time around. But something that I did differently was I was sure about the journey this time.
Okay.
Before, I think I was very indecisive. But this time I took a stance from the beginning. I'm like, even with my 4-month-old, I'm going to pass this year. I kind of know how this year goes. And I know it's terrible, but I'm going to do it. And I just put my head down. And that was one of the hardest years of my life to date, because I was undoing trauma. I was raising a baby. I was learning how to do distant learning. I'm not in the presence of friends. I live with my parents now, again, which is a bit different.
So you had to move back home.
I had to move back home.
Yeah.
I'm not a university student.
Yeah.
You know. Things are so different. And I have to learn how to absorb it all in 1 year while still doing CTA. And I mean, CTA on its own.
No, it's a beast.
And you have to add all these other things, you know. And I remember the things that, like, got me through was the disciplines. You know, you kind of get used to the level of pain, if I could put it like that.
Yes.
Because it is what it is.
Instead enjoying it while at it.
Like, just make it work.
Yeah.
Because now I'm breastfeeding in the morning. Then at 8, I'm like, let me quickly go to the library. I'll be back at 2. At 2, I come back to breastfeed. And then, like, my daughter will sleep at, like, 6, and then I'll study for an hour. And then she'll sleep at, like, 8. And then I'll do the night shift, you know. And she'll wake up at 3 a.m. And that was, like, my life for full year, because I breastfed the whole year, you know.
Sure.
I was that person. I was like, I'm going to...
Right now, you deserve a standing ovation, because what?
I'm like, I'm going to breastfeed this child. I want her to be healthy. And I was so underweight. Mutondi, I don't want to lie to you. I was extremely underweight, highly stressed.
Yeah.
And God showed up for me in that year, because you need to imagine that being that young and also raising this child and then going through CTA, your mind is taking a journey of its own.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to make sense of the reality that you're living, and also questioning, will I actually make it?
Yeah.
You know? And I remember the one time I used to sit in my car every morning. I sit in my car. I'd have a 30-minute cry session with worship music playing.
Sure.
That's how I got through my days.
Yeah.
30 minutes, cry, worship, do it again. Cry, worship, because it was painful. I was getting like 2 hours of sleep every night, 3 hours. If I'm lucky, maybe 4. But that was the whole year, you know.
But you were crying in a car.
I was crying in a car, in a smart car. It was a tiny car. And
the
but
it's a car.
It's a car.
Okay.
But I was crying in my car.
level. You're not crying in a taxi.
I was crying in my car.
Yeah.
And I remember when that year was over and I passed, I was so proud of myself. I feel like at that time, I kind of walked into corporate knowing that I'm proud of myself and I'm proud of the person that I am, before people could tell me who I am, because now I have developed this beast of a person. Like, I showed up in corporate, like, ready, you know?
Sure.
And I was ready because I was excited to see people, number one, because I haven't been seeing people by myself. And then secondly, I also knew that, like, I had grit and I had resilience, and I know pain and I know late nights and I know struggle. It's like everything that I'm going to walk into, I had a year of trial.
Yeah.
So I can do this, you know? And so I did my articles, and my articles, I showed up for myself. Like, I really did my best in articles. I tried to make sure that I was, like, always getting good ratings. I was making friends with the managers. And again, it was a strategy, because I knew I was a parent. And at first I thought, should I tell them that I'm a parent or not?
Yeah.
Because, you know, when you are a woman in corporate and you have a child,
Yes.
the treatment is not the same, you know?
it's not recommended.
It's not recommended. It's not for the soft at heart.
Yes.
You know? And so I was a bit nervous to disclose that fact. But quite quickly, I'm proud of being a mom. So I was like, I'm not going to be ashamed of being a mom. I'm going to own it. So I led with that. So I knew there's a give and take that happens in corporate.
Yeah.
If there was a time where my daughter was sick, I needed time off. But I knew people at first go in corporate don't trust you. So I needed to earn their trust. So I needed to always put in extra effort. So if people were working 8 hours, I was working 10.
Sure.
If people weren't working on the weekends, I was working on the weekends because I knew my bank needed to have something in it for those days.
That's so mature.
I think it's, again, the maturity that comes with being a parent so young.
Yeah.
Is because everything revolved around my daughter. Yeah. Everything that I made was no longer about me. Even at work, I wasn't excelling for self. I was excelling because my daughter needed to know this part of my story. Because I knew that, like, in essence, what she's going to know about me has to start from her inception because she's the one that changed it for me. She's the one that gave me direction. Her name is Zoe, which means life and life more abundant.
That's a beautiful name.
And I got it from a dream because I remember at that time, like I said, when I was pregnant, I was going through a lot and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And Zoe means life, and I think her life shaped me. It shaped the way I thought. It shaped the way I saw people. The empathy that I have towards people. It reignited my passion for teaching in a different manner. Because at first I was just tutoring. But now I knew the importance of teaching. Because now I was living out the teaching that I wanted my child to tap into. When she knew when I had you, how I had you, what happened when I had you. Because we all find out, you know, how we were made. And
exactly.
What happened. And like some people, it's not a good story. They were like, if I didn't have a child so young, I probably would have been so far, you know?
Yes.
And I didn't want my child to like grow up with that narrative.
Yeah.
I wanted to know that she wasn't a limitation. Even when I was working, even when I was young, I still did it with her, you know?
Wow.
And so I kind of knew that I had to be that person in corporate already with that notion that I'm doing it for my daughter.
So, can you say that all the trials or the challenges that you had with the pregnancy, failing CTA, were preparation for the life that you're living now? So in other words, had you not gone through those things, would you have done well as much as you're doing now?
I completely doubt it. So I've learned to embrace failure because there's something that happens with failure and pruning that allows you to tap into a version of yourself that you don't know about until you experience failure.
That's powerful.
Until you experience something of burning, you know. And I think life is very comfortable. Like, we want comfort. From the moment we're young, we want everything easy. When we start working, we want everything easy. It's only through the discomfort. It's only through the challenges where we like, oh, okay, I see why it had to happen. And I mean, it's not that when it's happening, it's nice, it's fun. 2019 to date is the worst year of my life. How much it took and the sacrifices.
Sure.
You know? But I look back at that year and I still draw from it. I still remind myself the strength that I have from that year. I still remind myself of the disciplines that I have from that year. It's like it's a marker for everything that happens in my life.
And your identity, because before then, you never had time to reflect about
100%.
What you want
100%.
As an individual.
100%. I want to tell people that even like failure, we always think it's like the last stepping stone, you know, and we don't want to recover. We think we can't recover, or we want an easy way out. But I've learned to thank God in the failures because you don't understand what it's doing for you. Because I don't think, had I not had those failures, I wouldn't have been as successful as I was when I was in corporate. Because, again, I was proud of myself before somebody told me that they were proud of me. So when people were looking for approval from managers, I wasn't. Because I'm proud of myself. I knew. And I was like, if they say congrats, if they say, Lesego, you're doing well, that's great. But I was proud of myself from inside because I knew where I come from. And everything was like, always like, oh, you're doing so great. You're killing it. You know, I was like my own supporter because that's who I was in 2019 for myself. there was no turn to your neighbor, ask a question.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, ask a question, solve it yourself, Lesego.
Exactly.
There's no one to like help you get through certain things. So failure is something that people should embrace and realize that it's inevitable. No one is not going to go through failure. Like, we are all going to go through failure. You're going to go through something, but see the learnings in it, see the opportunity in it, and don't stay down too long, you know, because sometimes you get comfortable in failure. You get so sure of yourself, saying that I'm a failure, or I don't deserve well, I shouldn't be doing well. This is the card that I was dealt, so I'm going to run with it.
Yeah.
But at any point in time, you can change the narrative of your life.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful, because a lot of people, once they fail, yes, it's bad and all that, but then they make it their identity.
100%.
And then, you just feel like you're that person who failed.
Forever. And that's how you take on life. That's how you take on everything. I mean, failing in school doesn't say that you failed in life. You know,
exactly.
You might not have understood a principle.
Yeah.
Just understand it better.
And sometimes I feel like the CTA year is, I honestly believe it was sent by God. Yes.
And because I was like, it's sent by the underground gang.
You think it's the underground gang?
And it's not.
It's preparation par excellence. Like, once you pass that, nothing can stand before you.
100%. Somebody even said, I remember one of the lectures were like, once you pass CTA, you can have a child, you can have a business, you can have everything.
You are capable.
You are more than capable.
Your faith is at a certified level, because the whole year you live by faith. You get a 30, you still believe I'm going to pass. I'll get that 50 at the end of the year.
100%.
Well done.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Sure. And then we continue. I wanted to ask, when you were at corporate and, you know, when we were trainees, you know, there's this thing of us coming as a group, and then it's like a group of us, like group work. You know, you move to the next level together, and now you are there. You are a super performer. Didn't that like draw some jealousy from your peers?
So what's so funny is, in the private sector, because I did my articles in the private sector, I realized that like it's my people that look like me, that were more intimidated by how strong I came on, you know? Okay. And again, I don't know if it's misconstrued, because I do understand where that might come from, because in corporate, there is a language, there's a posture, there's a way you need to be here. But I think I did it naturally based on my experiences, not my knowledge of how corporate was.
Yeah.
So I think people were intimidated, thinking she knows what she wants. She's gonna be here to get our jobs, and she wants to be seen, and she wants to be this. And I think I got the slack from people that look like me.
Sure.
And I think that broke my heart, because I wanted friends. I wanted to be with people. Because that's who I've always been. I love learning with people. I love bringing up people with me. I don't like to be on a pedestal by myself. And again, when I entered, because I was 2 years behind, if I could put it like that. So when I was in first year, the people that I technically studied with were in their third year. Right? Going into managers. And I was reporting to them, you know? And so I knew I couldn't come in with just because I'm older. Just because I've got all these things. You know, I had to humble myself. But I had to do it in such a way that doesn't mean I downplay my abilities. You know, I still wanted to show up for myself, but I kind of understood that the backlash that I was getting, there was a reason behind it. So I had to always be conscious of it, because I had to know not to personalize it too much. And think, okay, I understand. They're also trying to make a name for themselves. They're also trying to get the positions. They're also trying to get recognized, you know. And sometimes I had to be humble enough to not raise my hand sometimes in the boardroom.
Sure.
You know, for the sake of, I want to make sure that also these people realize that I'm not coming for you. I'm not coming for your job. I'm not coming for the attention in the room. I just want to learn. And that was a bit challenging, because you're starting to realize that not all is fair in corporate. You know? And not all opportunities are going to be given to you if you're quiet. And sometimes they pin you against each other, especially if you're melanin, you know? Because it's like you have to make sure that you are smart but not too smart. You have to make sure that you're friendly, but not too friendly.
Yeah.
You have to make sure that you can twang, but not too much. You know what I mean? Like, there's like,
it's such a complicated game.
It's a game. That's what it feels like. Because that's like, who am I today?
Yeah.
And I had to realize I can't contend with how people want me to show up.
Yeah.
Let me live in the truth of who I know God called me to be and who I would like to be. So the resistance is there. And I don't want trainees to have like a shock when they get there and they realize that like no one wants to be your friend.
Yeah.
People want
just
to,
because you're too great.
Yeah. Some people are going to be threatened. Some people are going to already think that like, this one thinks she knows too much. Stay away.
So you must pretend like you don't know.
Not pretend like you don't know. Never. Don't say you're different.
Yeah.
I think it's stay in your lane.
Yeah.
And know where to get value where you need it. So if somebody's not helping you, go to the next person.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to ask. You know, I knew like people that look like me sometimes don't want to help me. So I had allies. People that didn't look like me, I would ask them. I didn't have embarrassment or shame to ask.
Yeah.
Because I always believe to be a good teacher and a good student, you have to be able to ask questions, even if it's uncomfortable, even at the expense or the cost of looking dumb. Sure. I don't mind how I look.
Yeah.
If it's going to get me the goal that I need to get, I'll do it, you know. And sometimes people don't want to sit in the discomfort of asking. So they'll chin up, you know, and you'll ask them, how do I test depreciation, for example? And you've never tested unit first or unit second. And you ask them something like, how can you not know that? And you realize, okay, let me ask someone else. You know? And so I think you just need to gradually realize that if some people are not going to help you, go to the next person. Even if they don't look like you, even if they don't sound like you, even if they don't come from the same background as you, if they're not from the same educational background or the same ethnicity, be comfortable with knowing that in the marketplace, we all come from different places and everybody has something to offer. And if one person is not going to give you an offering, go to the next person.
Yeah, that's maturity.
Yeah.
Sure. And then after that, you're in corporate.
I'm in corporate now. I'm thriving. It's great. And you get an opportunity right now to, I think, I was a COVID baby. I want to put it like that. 2020, that's when I started articles. So we had the experience of doing corporate for 3 months, thinking that we're going to have this beautiful life, and then lockdown happened. And then we were like the first people to experience the CA stream on a virtually, you know, and now realizing how difficult articles can be. But I was in training, remember, because I was doing UNISA. So for me, this was like,
we just continue.
God, I see you. I'll never question you. When you slap me, I know I can see why, you know, because I knew this is the learnings. I was so used to virtual learning that it didn't hinder my progress. And I think after going back into the workplace, I think when we were in third year, we started going into clients. We started traveling. We started going into the clients and seeing how cultures work at different audits. And that was great. And I had the opportunity again to work on a lot of listed audits. Again, because I was so high performing, you get opportunities, you know. And without even asking, it's just a partner seeing, oh, Lesego can do this. Okay, put her on this job. Oh, Lesego can do this. Put her on this job. And I think that's one thing that's not explicitly stated when you step into corporate is people look at the quality of work that you do and they will give you more opportunities when they can see that you're willing. And I think sometimes we step in thinking that people are just going to give us opportunities or they're just going to fall in our laps. But actually, the reality is that's not how it works, you know. And so the traveling started happening and I started getting exposed to like the different clients. And then afterwards, I got the opportunity to stay on as a manager. I stayed as a manager. It was great. But again, because I'm a wife, because I'm a parent, that's another story, right? Going into a manager role, a management role, and being a wife and being a parent, you start seeing the choice making that you need to that you need to do. It's no longer a balancing act. It's either like you want to work or you don't want to work, you know, because corporate, there's no gray line. Sometimes it feels like there's no gray line. It's like they put you in a corner to choose.
Yes.
And I've learned to realize that like it's up to you to decide what type of season you want to step into. And I knew I wanted to step into a season of being a wife and a mother. I was so comfortable in that role and I was really embracing it. I really wanted to cook for my husband. I wanted to take my child to school. My career, And I always say this, I'm like, it's okay to have different seasons.
Mm.
In that season, I wasn't career ambitions. I wasn't looking for the biggest promotions. I really wanted to have a calm job that was going to embrace the season of being a wife and a mother. And unfortunately, that's not what I was getting. And so I decided to go to a more calmer job. It was an offshoring role. It was still an audit because I still love audit.
Yeah.
And it gave me the flexibility that I needed. And I got the opportunity to even travel abroad for a little bit. I was in London, which was also great because now you start realizing Joburg is not that big.
Yeah.
Then you're like, my eyes have been opened.
Yeah.
You know, at first, when I came here from the Northwest, I was like, this is the biggest city ever. Now I'm in London and I'm like, oh my gosh, Lesego, life is big.
Yeah.
There's so much to do. There's so much to see. And there's different seasons of your life that you can embrace. So now this year is different from last year. Last year I was like wife era, mom era.
Yeah.
This year I'm like, okay, I'm ready to tap into my career.
Yeah.
I'm ready to see what my designation has in store for me, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like doing YouTube on the side because I had a really interesting APC experience.
Okay.
Where, because I was so used to online studying, when we started doing APC, I went on YouTube and I was looking for APC material.
Then you find nothing.
There was nothing. I was like, how can there be nothing? How many CAs are there in South Africa?
Sure.
Where is the APC material? You know? And after I passed, I told my friend till this day, now that they know I'm like in digital content creation, they're like, Lesego, we thought you were joking. Because I remember I got a camera.
Yeah.
I'm like, guys, I'm going to put up videos on YouTube. I'm going to tell people how to pass APC because this is not right.
Yeah.
We need to know how to pass APC. Like, it's a strategy, you know, because I think I got the strategy of APC at the end. You know?
Okay.
And I was like, I'm going to do a series. I'm going to call it APC series. This is what I'm going to do. And you know, when you start YouTube, it's so strange. You already want to start an identity. Like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't start with APC. Let me start and tell them who I am.
Yes.
Where I come from. And somebody, if they stalk me, they'll go, my first YouTube videos, they're a bit all over the place, you know, because at first I'm doing my life story and then my birth story. And then eventually I get into the rhythm of my CA journey.
Okay.
And trying to use my learnings to encourage other people. And my highlight was APC because I knew that's where people fumbled a lot in this journey. Like APC, it wasn't just about the technical. I think it was personal.
Yes.
It was also working.
Yes.
It was also like the end exam, seated exam.
Yeah.
And I think people, that pressure, you know, of like, I'm about to qualify, it gets to them.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, let me do a series where I just show people my learnings, how to do a file, for example, or what did I learn? What do I wish I did better when I was doing APC? What I wish I knew, you know? And eventually that started growing. And the YouTube for me, I did it out of wanting to contribute. And my channel is called Learning, Growth and Contribution because that's what I wanted to do with it. I wanted to learn, firstly for myself. I wanted to grow, not only with myself, but with my audience.
Yeah.
And I wanted to contribute. I wanted to show them that, like, I come from a town where I didn't know a lot because I didn't have access. It's not that I didn't want to know.
Yeah.
But I want to give you access so that you don't say, I didn't know.
Exactly.
This is the CA journey. This is how it goes.
Yeah.
There's an APC giant. There's an IT. There's a year called CTA. It's going to dribble you.
Yeah.
You'll find God there.
Yeah.
But you have to.
Always.
You know what I mean? And so that's the theme of my channel.
Yeah.
That I wanted to just show them, this is a journey, but this is my journey.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Your journey can look completely different. But some principles are the same. Accounting is still accounting. Audit is still auditing. Tax is still tax. You know, and even in the corporate space, these are the languages that we find ourselves in. These are the confrontations that we find ourselves in. These are the conversations that we find ourselves in. These are the uncomfortable things that happen in corporate, you know, because you look a certain type of way, because you don't come from an affluent background, you know.
Yeah.
And even now I have an event coming up in August where I'm doing what I'm doing on my channel, but in person.
Oh, wow.
Because I wanted to show people that, like, you need to call yourself out of your name. So for me, like I said,
tell us about your event.
My event, shameless plug. You must be there. It's on the
Because
31st.
we are coming, all of us.
Please come. It's on the 31st of August. It's called Bridge the Gap, Empowering Professionals. And basically, it's taking what I do online, but in person.
Okay.
So we'll be doing a life of a professional. Like, how do you get into corporate? First of all, you have to interview. You need to know how to write a CV. So we're going to be doing a session on CV writing and interviewing. Then in corporate, there's a language. there's a posture that you need to uphold. And certain people don't know about it. They don't understand that self-belief, self-confidence, professional skills, those are the skills that make you stand out. Communication, over and above your technical capabilities. Can you sit in the tension of an audit room, of a boardroom, at that hour when we're about to sign? Can you sit in that tension, you know? And so we're going to be doing a session on self-confidence, self-belief, as well as imposter syndrome. I think a lot of people have been feeling like imposters. And I think it's because of the fact that, like, again, we don't feel worthy of certain spaces. And I used to be like that. But now I know that, like, identity comes from what you say about yourself. Not from positions, not from titles, you know. But I know there's strategies. It's not like as easy as it than I can tell you, don't be an imposter. But there's strategies. So we're going to be doing, unpacking a lot of those strategies on the event. And we're also going to be setting career goals. Like, how do you set career goals? Now that you've established yourself in corporate, how do you shoot for the stars? How do you lay out your career? These are the types of conversations. These are the type of things that you should have. And that's like going to be the bulk of the day. And SAICA is also going to be there on the day. I've got a lot of partners. We've got GCO, the company that I'm currently working for. SAICA is also partnering with us. There's another CA. Her name is Nokutlo Kumalo. She has a company called Lomaku. She's also partnering with us. And the Useful Company as well. So I think it's going to be a very fruitful event, and it's not only for aspiring CAs, but it's also for CAs, you know, because I think CAs have a lot of wisdom to share with us, especially if you like. I still consider myself newly qualified. People are going to come for me, but I know the newly qualified people might say I'm still newly qualified. But we have a lot to learn from each other. Because we work different experiences, right? We have people from the private sector, people from the public sector. I recently got an opportunity to work with the public sector, and my eyes were opened, you know, and I just realized, oh my gosh, I thought corporate was one-sided, and now there's a different dynamic. Then I meet people like you as well. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like life is so much bigger if you just zoom out. If you just keep having more conversations. If you realize that the CSA designation is a key, it's not a destination. And that's what I thought it was. I thought I've arrived. I'm a CA. Little did I know.
You've just arrived.
I just arrived. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so looking forward to the next 10 years.
No, it's gonna be amazing. That much I can tell you. So where do we get the tickets? Are the tickets?
The tickets are on the website. So if you follow me on all my social media, especially LinkedIn, I think LinkedIn is my biggest platform. But I have a page on Instagram called Learning, Growth and Contribution. The link is in the bio. On my personal page, on Instagram, I am ELLE Rankou. So L Rankou. It's on my bio, but everywhere on my socials, it's there.
Bottom line,
be there.
Get your ticket and be there.
31st of August. It's almost around the corner. We have 1 month left.
It's a date. Okay. So, Lesego, I'm really inspired. To me, you seem like someone who, you look very, you know, petite. And one can really assume that you are a bit weak and fragile and all that. But based on what you've shared with me, I can tell that you are a force. So when you're in the corporate space, what kinds of challenges did you come across? I know you mentioned about having a family and corporate is not really supportive of that. But what are the other challenges that you came across in your experience?
I think for me personally, it was like the social challenges, you know. There's just a lot on accolades in corporate, you know, and background. And I think I've never been ashamed of where I come from or like growing up in a township or like being able to switch from English to vernac very quickly. I've always been the quirky person in the office space, but it was really frowned upon, right? And I think it challenges authenticity. I think that's something that I didn't realize was going to be such a challenge in corporate, right? It's hard to establish yourself because I think everybody's like minions. I want to say minions because we all have to aspire to be a certain type. An A-type personality. And like, I want to come into the office and I want to do my work. And, you know, and it was hard for me, you know, because even in those spaces, I used to like break out in a joke because I just felt like it's too tense. And I can't think.
Everyone is so serious.
Everybody's so serious and everybody's dressed correctly and everybody wants to have coffee. Everybody wants to go to the mall. Everybody wants to do... And I'm just kind of like, guys, the social state, like not everybody can afford to have coffee every day. Not everybody can afford to just want to talk about how great the weekend is. Some people can't afford to have a weekend every time, right? And I feel like those are the challenges that like are hidden, but they come up in conversations, because that's when the authenticity is challenged, because now you try to make up a story about how great your weekend was. You try to go out when you don't have money to go out. You try to go to someone's house when you know you probably can't invite them to your house because you don't have the same setup that they have, you know? So those were the challenges that I found the most. And I also think technical background. I think the bigger universities come there with the knowledge that they're better than everyone.
Yeah.
I come from Monash, you know, and people were like, what is Monash?
What? Yeah, who is Monash?
Who is Monash? It's like, you didn't get to Wits. You didn't get to UCT. You know? I was like, no, but I'm here.
Oxalive.
Yeah. You know? And like people like gravitate towards those things, you know?
Yeah.
It's the social status. It's the which university did you go to?
Yeah.
Where do you live?
Yes, that's
you know?
next, yeah.
And I think I was like very challenged by those questions, you know, and I couldn't understand them, and I still can't understand them. And I think that's why even when I became a manager, I always tried to know trainees on a personal level, because I knew sometimes trainees were not performing, not because they weren't smart enough. When you are in corporate, you're smart enough to be there.
Yeah.
You passed an interview, you passed CTA, you passed ITC, you are in the office space.
Yeah.
You are supposed to be there.
Yeah.
So technical is not a question.
Sure.
But people make it that like it's a problem, you know. And I always say sometimes you don't make people feel comfortable in a room, that's why they can't perform. Or maybe you are asking them to be something that they're not and they can't think, you know. I couldn't sometimes in the audit room perform because it was too tense. People were rude, people were hostile. And for me, I clench when I'm in tense rooms.
Yeah.
I can't think. I want to harmonize quickly. I go into like fix mode.
Yeah.
You know. And so I come up with the jokes. I'm like, okay, let's take a break. You know, let's talk about something else, because I need to balance out this atmosphere. And people thought I was doing it for them. I was doing it for myself.
Yeah.
I needed to.
Because everyone is so stressed.
Everybody's so stressed, you know. And those challenges are very real.
Yeah.
And I think you only appreciate the truth of it once you're in there.
Yeah.
Because you don't realize how much they really affect you once you realize that, like, oh, is that why this person is not performing?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, is that why this person is potentially, like, not coming to the office on the weekend? Some people can't afford to come to the office on the weekend, you know?
Yeah.
So it's things like that.
Some people are late every day because they need to take, like, 3 takes.
100%. And, like, in corporate, it's like, why are you late? You have to be at 8. It starts at 8. And you are so embarrassed, for lack of a better word, to say, I have to take 3 taxis. There's nothing wrong with taking 3 taxis.
Yeah.
But people make it seem like you're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be there. And I think that was hard for me. And I think I always told myself that if I'm in a leadership role, a management role, I need to appreciate people for who they are and where they come from, and not make them feel embarrassed about where they come from. So I was intentional. I'm very intentional when I meet people to find out who they are before I go into the conversation of what I'm trying to have. Yeah. Because you might lead with privilege and you don't even realize it.
Yeah, that's true.
And you already cut off that person from sharing because you led with your privilege. Yeah. You led with I'm from, you know, and I'm into, you know, and people are like, oh, I'm not even gonna speak to that person, you know. Yeah. And I think those are real challenges that I think everyone, it doesn't even have to be trainees, even as a experienced professional. Yeah. If you're not driving a German,
like, what are you doing? Are you even working?
You know what I mean? So I think the conversation is real, but I think authenticity is the most challenged thing.
By the way, I like your German machine.
Thanks.
She is so beautiful. And she is beautiful.
Don't tell the people.
I won't call her by name, but she is stunning.
Yeah, I'm talking about Germans.
Yes. So, and another thing that I want us to unpack is, you know, the culture shock that you get when you get to corporate. I don't want to say, you know, put race into it. However, there is a certain color that is more, you know, they seem like they thrive 100%. In those environments.
100%.
Do you think us as the melanin color are capable of creating environments for ourselves where we'll address, you know, issues that are relevant to us? Because what I've seen is when we are trying to address ourselves, we're trying to pull other people to come and understand what we are on about. And unfortunately, their experience of life is not the same.
100%.
You know, so instead of us trying to force others to understand us, is it possible for us to then create spaces that will be conducive for us and people with similar experiences?
Yeah. So I'm doing a leadership course with Duke Corporate Education.
Oh, okay.
And one of the things that they said, this one is specifically for women.
Okay.
And they mentioned that...
Are you my classmate?
Probably.
I think you're my classmate.
Probably. They'll say, like, women feel like they need to be allied by the men, you know, or by other races.
Yeah.
And the guy said something so profound. And it struck me because when he said it, I understood what he was saying. He was like, the only people that's going to liberate women in corporate is women.
Thank you.
And I feel like the only people that are going to liberate Black people in corporate is Black people.
Yeah.
The moment we start respecting each other, the moment we start opening up opportunities for each other, there are already systems in play, you know. And I think South Africa, outside corporate, has a history of oppression and race. And race is always going to be something that we're going to be dealing with for the longest time, you know. But there are certain things as a people that we can do better for each other in a corporate space.
Yes.
So if I know as a person, these are the challenges that I came across, it's my responsibility to fix it. My responsibility, not somebody else's responsibility. And it's going to be challenging. And I think sometimes we don't want to be on the firing line because it requires you to be on the firing line. It's like the people that trailblaze, the people that bring about change. You have to be willing to be in a firing line. And you also have to be willing to understand the level of responsibility that you are playing in the game. And I think sometimes we try to avoid it. So in as much as we sometimes like focusing on race, and we know it's there.
Yes.
It's a reality. We're going to face it. It's our approach to it. It's our perception to it. It's what do we do with it, you know? Because calling it out by its name all the time doesn't solve it.
It doesn't.
What is going to solve it is what are you doing about it? You know? How are you going to help that next Black girl that's going to be working under you that doesn't know what she doesn't know? Because remember, corporate shock happens, runs you in. Not when you are hearing about it. It's when you have your first experience and you realize you're the minority in all spaces.
Exactly.
In race, in gender, in everything. It's only up until it happens, and it's a shock, you know. And I think people need to start realizing that even for me, I always say as a Black person, I'm very conscious of my race. I'm not embarrassed about my race. I was part of the transformation committee when I was in my articles, and the one part that used to upset me, certain things were kind of tailored like around transformation, like there's a political way of being transformed. Like,
no,
what a race.
What do you mean?
How can you transform politically? Like, if you want impact, if you want to change, you can't be political about it. You can't be like very fair about it. We are addressing something that was unfair. And we have to be able to name it what it is so that we can fix it. And so I think sometimes we leave it too much to the systems, and these systems have been there for a long time. And I think it's harder when you're working for more established companies. I'm finding it's easier when you are branching out on your own, or you're working with smaller companies, or even if in your direct circle you are making the changes. I think at a corporate level, at a bigger level, the conversation is much larger because there's more stakeholders involved. And policymakers don't accept change as easy, as easier said than done. Because to communicate a policy from the top down is not as easier said than done. They might have certain things that they would like to change regarding how they deal with Black employees or Indian employees or colored employees, but how is it going to look to our white counterparties without being offensive? And the goal is not to be offensive. And I think I always said, why don't you explicitly say we are not trying to offend? This is what we're trying to do. And I realize it's not as easy in corporate, those conversations, and people are not ready for those conversations. It's 2024 and people are still uncomfortable talking about race. And I find it very upsetting and also quite challenging because I have a lot of diverse friends. And in my friendship groups, I'm intentional about having diverse perspectives because I realize that I can't be one-sided also.
Yeah.
Because you are at risk of being Amanda.
Yes,
without realizing
and sometimes it's not that effective.
Sometimes it's like it's not working.
Yeah.
So know how to ally with people, know how to understand people, how to get with them, how to understand how they think. And it's going to take time. I think appreciate that it's going to take time. But again, stressing the idea that the responsibility is yours.
It's yours.
You can't walk in there as a victim and embrace the victimhood that they place on you. Because I can tell you now, when you come in as a black person or even as a black female, you are at the bottom.
Definitely.
It is point blank.
Yeah.
And now it's like, how do I get out of the bottom and prove myself?
Yeah.
And work myself and show these people I'm supposed to be here. It's an unnecessary battle, but it's a necessary battle.
Yeah.
Because you're thinking, why do I have to do this? Because my friend doesn't have to do it.
Yeah.
But the reality is, that's your reality.
Yes.
Make peace with it. But now use it to change the narrative. Don't accept it because now you're like, I'm not even going to even work that hard.
Yeah. And with women, it's like, because I was able to overcome this, then the one who's coming behind me must feel the same pain.
They must feel the pain. And they must see how it feels like to work.
Sure.
And they must feel how it feels like to work late at night.
Yeah.
I used to even tell people, I'm like, how can you be so proud that you worked until 3 a.m. at night?
That's not normal.
And then come and tell me that you guys have it so easy. We used to work until 3 a.m. I'm like, why don't you do it better?
Yeah.
Why don't you make sure that I leave here at 8?
Yes.
Because you shouldn't want to say, I should go through the same struggle that you walk through for me to feel like I'm going to be a better employee.
Yeah.
I can be a better employee by hearing your learnings.
Yeah.
And that's why I extended it on my YouTube to say, guys, these are the realities that we face in corporates. Even on my LinkedIn, like I lead with a lot of my faith on LinkedIn because I realized that if it wasn't for my faith, I also probably would be bitter.
Yeah, definitely.
I probably would also have like a different agenda or view things differently. But I have a force that's grounding me. I also have like a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
When I'm moving, I also see that like when I come to the office, I need to show people that you can be strong and confident and not be the angry black woman.
Yeah.
But you can still be strong and confident.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't have to lead also with confidence.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be submissive. Those are things that I learn in my faith. It's not that I learn it in a corporate space.
Yeah.
It's because God is teaching us Jesus is the head.
Yeah.
The body of Christ is the church. And so that's how I lead. In corporate, sometimes I understand there's an authority at play. I don't try to be the authority. How do I make my room and make my way up to the authority? That's a walk.
Yeah.
That takes patience.
Yeah.
Those are things that we learn about when you learn about the fruit of the Spirit, self-control, kindness. Those are the things that I action out in corporate. Be kind, Lesego, because the Bible says be kind.
Yeah.
Don't be rude. Why are you being rude, And those are the things that, like, I guess if you don't have a strong sense of self, you get lost in this corporate mess and race discussion, and it can go to the ends of the world, and you'd still come back to the same problem.
Yeah, that's really powerful, and I think sometimes we want to deny that the Holy Book has taught us everything about life,
everything.
We try to package it in different ways, and I promise you, every leadership book that I've ever read,
there's
all
a reference
the principles
in the Bible
are in the Bible,
100%.
So it's very important, and I like the point that you made about submission, because great leaders are servants. So you need to be able to submit
100%.
Before you can even think of leading.
100%.
And I think that's what people need to understand, even the young ones who are coming up. You need to understand that you need to serve. You are a leader because you are a servant.
100%. And even when you qualify, I think this is the deception that we think as CAs. We think that once we've been branded by SAICA, you're a CA, you deserve positions. You deserve management roles. You don't deserve anything. You're still learning. This is a key.
Yeah.
It can unlock a lot of things.
Yeah.
But even when you are stepping, let's say you did your articles in an audit firm and you're going into corporate, humble yourself to know that like you are starting a job. You do not come as a CA and think I have it all figured out, you know. And I think if you get out of that deception again of this position and this designation, it will be easier to serve. You know? Because again, we hold so tightly to our titles and our positions that we don't want to serve. You're like, oh, but I'm a manager. Why doesn't a trainee do that?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, why doesn't a first year do like get coffee or do something? And it's like, if you are kind, just do it, you know. And I think people respond better if you serve them first.
Yes.
And I realized that one of the traits that made me stand out as a manager was because I made sure that my trainees understood that like I wanted to serve them before they served me. So if ever they were doing something, let me go through it with them first and then see what they can do. But the idea that you need to serve before you can manage people, before you can lead people, is still something that people don't have fully grasped. There's still a lot of work to be done in that area. And more specifically for the men, you know. We think it's just women, but I think it's also for the men because submission is for the women.
Yes,
you know,
predominantly.
And but funny enough, we report to a lot of the males, and I think as women, we submit to an authority that we know also respects us and loves us and whatnot. But I think it's even harder in a corporate space because this man never even looks at me. You know, he never even makes eye contact with me. He doesn't even expect a lot from me, or he's just always looking at the next guy. He doesn't even consider me. And so we retaliate, you know. And the way to retaliate in corporate is very funny because sometimes we don't respond to emails. We I think the term is called quiet quitting.
Yes, quiet quitting.
We are not putting our best effort at all. Like we'll just give you our bare minimum. We'll come there for the 8 hours and then I'm gonna go cook for my child because why do I have to be here? You know. And I think sometimes man, like we can be petty like that. And sometimes it feels justified. But it takes a certain level of awareness to say, what's at stake here? And what do I want for myself here?
But is it effective also?
Is it also effective? And most times it really isn't.
It is.
Because it ends up hurting you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sure. That's powerful. So let's get into being a great woman, being a CA, high performer, wife, mother. How do you balance those things?
Sure. The grace.
It's just grace.
It's just grace. I think the past 3 months for me have been quite humbling. Because I actually decided to sit at the feet of God for a little bit in my career. Because I realized I grew up quite quickly in my life and also in my corporate journey. That I didn't have time to take it all in. I felt like everything was just full pace. I was like, failure, come back. CA, do this, corporate, you know, and I was like, I was leading so much with ambition. And I needed to realize that if God is going to give you certain things, He knows how to use them better. You know, and so I knew that like, I kind of think I know what I should be doing, but it feels too like effort pushed, you know. I'm pushing too much weight.
I'm working very hard.
Too much. And now it feels like you're pushing dead weight sometimes. You know? And a lot of people, I laugh because I think a lot of people feel like this very later on in their career, in their 40s, once they've got 10 years experience, once they've had the senior roles. And I used to laugh at God and I'm like, God, why did you give me this feeling so early? Like I literally just started.
You are far ahead of your age, that much I can tell you. And we did not talk about the age because you became a manager at when you are...
I was 27.
What?
I was 27.
What?
I was 26 actually. Because I'm turning 29 this year. So I think I kind of had the sense that like I feel like an old person trapped in a small person's body. And I feel like I've lived a full corporate life and it just started, you know. And I think it's because of how it started. And so I decided to take time off and I'm like, God, I'm going to give you this designation. You can decide what you want to do with it because you gave it to me.
That's powerful.
However you want me to lead with it, it will come at your word.
Sure.
If you want me to do certain things, I will do them, but I don't want to do them by myself. And I don't want to lead life thinking that I have it all figured out because the more you speak to people, everybody's figuring it out. Even the ones that you look up to. even the ones that you aspire to.
Wow.
And that brought back the fear of God for me, that to say, God, I'm going to get there at my life and I'm still going to feel like I'm figuring it out. Let me do it now with you.
Yeah.
And I started getting, I want to say weird opportunities in my eyes, because I started getting partnerships with SAICA, being involved in the youth campaign.
Okay.
I started also like having a knack to go out into schools and give people information about the CA journey, because then I remembered I also was a student that didn't know anything about the CA journey.
Yes, exactly.
But now that I'm a CA, I don't need a company to go with. I can go by myself. And I went to schools and I was telling them, this is the CA journey, this is what's about, you know. And I think my social media started picking up, you know. This event also started picking up.
Wow.
Opportunities to speak on podcasts, to speak on like radio. I had my first TV appearance and I'm like, God, what am I doing on TV, you know? And I'm talking about the CA journey.
Yeah.
And it's because I said, God, whatever you want to do with it, do it, you know. And even entrepreneurship, it's not something that I aspire to. I thought career goals was about being in corporate and like climbing the corporate ladder. And now God is giving me an eye for entrepreneurship. And he's like, Lesego, you can do business. You can go into business. I'm going to put you with business leaders, business people. I'm going to show you how it works. And I think that's why I am in my phase, because I decided to surrender my life. And I think sometimes we are living a deceived life because we buy into the societies that we come from and what people tell us success is, what our friends are doing. And we think that's what our life is supposed to be.
Yeah.
But I know now, truly know now, that like I want God in the seat of wherever I'm going.
Yeah.
And he needs to drive this thing. And wherever he says I should go, I'll do it.
Wow.
And that's where I am right now currently.
Wow. That's powerful. You know, that level of humility. A lot of time in this life, we think, no, we got it figured out.
Yeah.
You know, but you need to go back to your creator.
100%.
What do I do with this life? You know? So well done on that.
Thank you.
So in one sentence, what is your purpose?
Yeah. I know my gifts.
Okay.
I always say when you go into purpose, because I think the minute you realize your purpose, we all have a purpose. And again, the Holy Book tells us our purpose is to share the gospel and make Jesus known. That's everyone's purpose.
Yeah.
But we express it very differently. Some are in the ministry of corporate. Some are in true ministry on the pulpit.
Yeah.
Some are doctors. Some are lawyers. It shows up very differently, but we are all expressing this light that God put in all of us, right? But I have a gift of teaching.
Okay.
And I always say my gift of teaching does not have a subject matter. If it's to build people through words, if it's to build people in a corporate space, in a boardroom, that's what I'm doing. I am teaching, you know. And I think sometimes we stay fixated on purpose.
Yeah.
And again, purpose is true for everyone.
Yeah.
We need to ask God, how do we express our gifts?
Yeah.
Because our purpose is already established.
Sure.
But it's getting revealed to us in every season, with every challenge.
Wow.
You know, you as a parent, you discover a certain aspect of your life that you never knew. You as a wife, you discover a certain purpose or certain expression of yourself that you didn't even know.
Yeah.
You as a 40-year-old, as a 30-year-old, you discover a different version of you. But you are still in one purpose.
Yeah.
You are just expressing it very differently. Yeah. So if you understand your gifts, you'll always see yourself in purpose.
Yeah.
So I really think that like my purpose again is to spread the gospel.
Yeah.
And to show this light of Jesus that's in me. It's going to express itself very differently. In this season, maybe I'm doing podcasts and I'm doing YouTube and I'm a digital content creator and I'm working with SAICA. Then the next season, I'll probably be something else. And the next season, I'll probably be something else.
Yeah.
But it will always reflect this light of Jesus that's within me through the gift of teaching.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
And I was sharing with you earlier today that I watched your video where you were explaining how the audit process works and what an audit manager does. I was like, this is so brilliant. The way you explained it, like you're truly a teacher.
Thank you.
And you have the English to back it up.
I have to thank my parents for that. Thank you for taking me to school.
Yeah. The English. No. It's giving. It's giving.
Love it.
Yeah. So one last question. What is your morning routine, if you have one?
My morning routine, you asked me this question, I was like, let me think about it. But I really think this is like the ideal the best morning routine.
Okay.
You wake up before the sun rises. You have to.
Okay.
You have to commit your day to the Lord.
Okay.
You have to start your day with devotional, no matter what happens. Because you don't know what's to come, but you know somebody who knows what's to come.
Yeah.
So you need to posture yourself, devotional.
Yeah.
After devotional, you need to go work out. You need to exercise, wake yourself up.
Yeah.
So I used to wake up at 5 in the morning. I'd do my devotional for an hour. I'd go to the gym from 6 until like 7.
Okay.
Then I'm back. I get my daughter ready for school. I take her to school. I come back. I get myself ready because now my day has started. Remember, I've gone to the gym. I've wrestled with God. God has taught me like what to do in the day, how to handle the day, how to prepare myself posture-wise.
Yeah.
And then I start off my day. But I think that is, for me, the ideal morning routine. And of course, you need to start with a healthy breakfast. I love smoothies. I'm not like a heavy breakfast kind of person. So I like quick things. So even in that time, I know before I work out, I have to try and have like a pre-workout snack. After I work out, you need to build muscle. If you're trying to lose weight, build muscle, doesn't matter. You need to eat protein. You know, try to have something that's going to sustain you. If you can, do a smoothie, do a shake, and then start off the day. And even when you are going to the marketplace, I call workplace the marketplace, but when you're going there, I blast.
Jesus.
I blast worship music. When I walk into the office, people are like, this girl, she's so nice. She's always so happy. And I'm like, guys, I'm full.
Yeah.
Because I'm eaten. I'm full. And I'm ready to start my day. And the challenges are coming. I think that's one thing that when you start your routine like that, you're prepared for anything. For a challenge, for a good thing, for a bad thing, because you are full, you know, to attack everything. But I think for me, that is like my ideal morning routine.
And you have such a wonderful presence.
Thank you.
There's no way one can look at you and not be happy. Look at me. I'm so happy right now.
I was blasting worship music. I'm like, God, you must feel your presence.
Wow. Now we know the secret behind.
The secret is worship.
Wow, that's beautiful. Yeah. Sure. So I am so inspired. I feel like we can talk like for
forever.
Yeah. So lastly, what is the one message that you want to leave with our viewers? You know, there are young people watching right now. What do you want to tell them?
I think as a young person, you're not young forever. And I think I wish I realized what that meant. Because when you're young, you are so impressionable. Your life as you know it is life as it is, you know. If you have friends, if you have boyfriends, if you on TikTok, if everybody's doing this, that's what you think life is. And then you quickly realize that life is not always going to be like that. There's going to be responsibilities. There's going to be things that you have to make a sense of. There's going to be decision making. So while you're young, enjoy being young. But being young doesn't have to look like what society says young is, you know. Going out to parties, yes, have fun. But that's not the only way to have fun. You know. I used to, in varsity, I used to go to church even though I used to party. And I used to laugh with God. I'm like, God, look away for now. Like, I still want to do what my friends are doing because you also impressionable. You do what your friends are doing. You are led by everybody else. But enjoy being young, but realize that you're not going to be young forever. And the narrative that you have of your life is not finite. You can change it at any point in time. If you were that girl that used to go out and does no longer want to go out, you can never go out. If you are always the academic that never, ever, ever sets a foot out, you can take a step. You can do that. You can take a step out of your house and go have friends and do whatever it is. But realize that the life that you have, it's changeable, you know, and you can decide what it is that you want to make of it. And don't close yourself off to change, because I think young people right now, especially because of social media, we have an expectation of what life actually is, you know, and what aspirations we should have and who we should know, how we should dress, where we should go. But take a moment to realize that, like, you are able to make those decisions yourself without being influenced, you know, because social media is a life of influence, but be influenced by the right things. And if I had an opportunity to know God earlier, I would have, you know, because I think life is easier with God.
Yes, definitely.
Challenges don't go away, but life is easier with God. And even now, my daughter is literally turning 6. My daughter knows how to pray by herself.
Wow.
And I always tell myself the best gift that I'll ever give my child is to know God.
Sure.
And so she reads her Bible. She knows the word. I'll let her pray and say, because innately we know how to pray. We know what works for us.
Yeah.
But because of the environment and the people that we find ourselves in, we take on personalities that aren't our own. But if I was a young person, get to know God. I think that's what I'd like to say, yeah.
You are too wise for a 29-year-old. That, you just said a mouthful.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Lesego.
Thank you for having
It was lovely having you here.
Thank you.
Like I said, we could speak for days,
and ever.
but I think we'll have dates for that, right? Yeah. So thank you so much for tuning in to Leadership with Mutondi R, and I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. Please do not forget to subscribe, like, and comment. And lastly, do not forget to get the tickets.
Please.
31 August, it is on. Until next time, bye.